Good evening. Right now, Metro Police are desperately searching for the person or people responsible for killing a man and a woman.
I got a male down in Village.
Breaking news now. A triple shooting leaves 2 dead.
Never expect for somebody to tell you your loved one was murdered.
This Labor Day will mark 42 years that have haunted the St. Cloud family.
30 years. 30 years this family has waited for answers.
A couple months go by, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you really start to struggle with the idea that the case might not get solved and that somebody might get away with murder.
It's very unfortunate that we have any cold cases at all, and certainly unfortunate that we have as many as we do. And that's why Ryan's work and the work of Project Cold Case is so important.
Hey, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm sorry if that video is kind of choppy and sometimes cuts in and out. At least it does on my screen while I'm trying to watch it. I'm just not tech savvy enough to have figured that out. But we'll get working on that. You know, we are back in the office a little bit now, so I can rely again on Clint to be my producer sometimes. But these 6 o'clock starts make it a little difficult because we've been in the office all day working and then coming home. So, but Clint's helping me out on posts tonight, answering posts. Hey, Derek, thanks for joining us again. For those of you that may not know, I'm Ryan Backman, the founder and executive director of Project Cold Case. I started the organization 5 years ago. I started the organization because my dad was murdered in 2009, and his case quickly went cold and has remained unsolved up to this point. I became a victim advocate after my dad's murder and learned a lot and met a lot of people and met a lot of other families that had unsolved cases. And so I saw an opportunity to start an organization that focused solely on those unsolved homicides, and so that's what Project Cold Case does. Now we have done these Facebook Lives for over a year now. We have a YouTube page where we archive them for people that maybe want to go back and see topics. From time to time, we will focus on a specific case. Usually we do that with one of the cases that we have been able to assist in facilitating getting that case on the local media, and then we'll have the reporter that worked on the case come in, whether that's Katie Jeffries from First Coast News or Lorena Inclan from Action News. So hi Mandy, good to see you here joining us. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. But from time to time, since quarantine and COVID, we have been doing a lot of these. Oh, hey, Larry, thanks for joining us. I've been playing phone tag with that the individual you connected me with, and we haven't had a chance to talk yet, but we're getting close. And Stephanie, we'll talk about that case in just a second. Janice, Vicky, hi everybody. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your days to join me. I was just saying that during this quarantine and COVID, we've really used the opportunity to just allow people to ask questions and try to answer them the best we can. It's really hard to get case specific on a forum like this, but of course you can reach out to us at our office during the week, Monday through Friday, and we're happy to help out on specifics as much as we can. But more in general, we can answer some questions and we can talk about some things. So, hey Karen, checking in from Toledo. Thanks for joining me tonight. So if you have those questions, please use the comment section to ask away, and we'll try to answer them the best we can. If nobody has questions, then we will. come up with a few topics and try to assist that way, and at least sharing some of the information we have learned over the years in dealing with unsolved cases and ways to assist families and law enforcement with those cases. So Stephanie had mentioned a case in Pinellas County, Florida. That's she needs help, and again, like our always our preface, so we don't do investigating. We are a group, a nonprofit. There's only 3 of us in the office, me, Clint, and Frida. We juggle lots and lots of families because every one of them deserves to have this same equal amount of awareness for their loved one's case, and each of their loved ones deserves to have to be solved. So that's always our goal. But Stephanie, as far as Pinellas County goes, we do have some contacts down there in Pinellas that work in the homicide office and do some cold case work. Pinellas has also been good about providing us with their cold cases, Taylor McAllister in 2016. So if anybody doesn't know, and then Lynn's dad in 1971 in Tampa. The sheriff department won't tell me anything. I can't get them to put a picture of them on their unsolved murder cases. Okay, so 2 things. Stephanie, we have hi Evelyn. We have a cold case database on our website, projectcoldcase.org, and Clint will hopefully, he'll post a link to that, either replying to your comment or in the comments here. Check our database and see if Taylor is in there, because Pinellas was pretty good about giving us cases to add to our database, to that database. But I don't know if in 2006, when we got those cases from them, I don't know if that would have fallen in their range of cases they would have considered cold at the time, because it's been a couple of years ago now that Pinellas provided us with those cases. And if they were very actively working it, they might not have provided it to us. But let's check into that and figure out. Either way, this goes for everybody listening, Stephanie, Lynn, any other survivors that are tuned in today and watching. Like Clint will also post in the comments a link to our case submission form, and all cases that we are able to assist with. Sorry, I'm reading your comment there, Stephanie. Any cases that we're going to assist with and help families with need to come through for liability reasons, and so we can keep our record straight, come through that case submission link. So Clint will be sharing that. And I'm glad you pointed that out, Stephanie. It's actually St. Pete Police Department. So we want to make sure that we have the correct information, that we're sharing the correct information, and that everything's on there. So Stephanie, if you can go through there and kind of double check for us and make sure everything else is accurate, tell us what's inaccurate, and then complete that submission form to send through to us. We can Taylor's case was submitted recently. Okay, great. So see, we've gotten so many cases that recently, I think during the quarantine, people were had a little extra time on their hands and were thinking about their loved ones and ways they could help, and started submitting them. But basically for everybody that watches these, that is a survivor, that has a loved one that was lost to a homicide, an unsolved homicide, like send it through that case submission page, and please give us. I mean, we are honored that you trust us with these cases and sharing your loved ones' stories, and we will do everything we can to assist in getting that information out there. And we have to keep expectations in check. That's why I always preface that we're not investigators, because unfortunately, just because you submit to us doesn't mean that your case is going to get resolved. Obviously, we wish that is what would happen, but give us that opportunity. We want to share your loved ones' stories. We want to help raise awareness. I mentioned Pinellas County, some of these law enforcement agencies have gotten to know us over time, and they are very receptive to us. Hey, Betty, thanks for joining us tonight. They are receptive to to us assisting, and they understand that that we're not trying to take the case from them, or that we're not going to point the finger and say that they've messed up. That our goal is their goal, is your goal. That we all share. That road that we want to stay on is that common goal of resolving these cases, and we know that some of these cases, all they need is a little publicity. All they need is for someone that maybe who wasn't willing to come forward back then will come back and do it and come forward now. So hi, Sue, thanks for joining us tonight. That's really our focus is getting the information out there, doing our best to get it to as many people as possible. We have the saying in our office that we don't need 1 million people to see these posts. We need one, but we may have to go through 1 million to get to that one. And so we are always trying to do the best we can, to not only get your loved one's information out there once, but to then follow up and get that loved one's information out there multiple times. And if that's if the first time we did it, the second time we did it doesn't have the impact that we want, doesn't have the result that we want, then we just keep trying. We don't just we don't give up and throw the case away. Frida is probably, as we speak, working hard to update some of our older spotlights, because quite honestly, back in the old days when it was literally just me working out of coincidentally this office, the spotlights were very generic and just kind of a narrative of what happened, and we were just trying to get the information out there and get people to share it. And so now we do a little more in-depth spotlight, and we want to see we want to get that information out there multiple times, because when I first started sharing stuff on social media and I didn't have Clint's expertise, we had 100 followers, and now we're closing in on 18,000. So a lot of people that have come along through the years that didn't see those original spotlights. And so Frida is updating those in between the million other things that she's doing. So we won't just give up on it. We won't just try to put it out there once and then be done with it. Let's see. So I'm getting kind of backed up here. Stephanie said one of her buddies works in Pinellas County Sheriff's Office in the cold case unit. You probably do know him, but I won't put his name out there on live feed. Yeah, I won't either. And but we can talk about that, because I do know a couple of them. One of them, better than any of the others. So we may know the same person. And made a comment about the sheriff's race in St. Johns County, and asking if any candidates understand that cold cases are important to families. Mandy, that is a great question, and you have caught me unprepared. I have yet to engage with any of the candidates, because Sheriff Shore has announced he's retiring. He's not running. He's not going to be sheriff. There will be a new sheriff in St. Johns County, Florida, which, for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with the areas, just south of Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Flagler, well, maybe Flagler is its own county, but St. Augustine in that area is St. Johns County. But you put me on a mission, Mandy. I'm going to do some research on those candidates. I do that in Duval County, and I reach out and ask, and I try to meet with them before election time, with no bias and only the question of, do you understand the importance of cold cases, and what are you going to do to continue that? I don't know your particular experience with Sheriff Shore, Mandy. I have had a a good experience with most of the detectives. I've only had a couple of interactions with him, but I do know that they did at least put some value with cold cases. But Mandy, you're exactly right. We've got to find that out. I was invited to a fundraiser for one of the sheriff's candidates, but during these times, I wasn't exactly rushing out the door to go to an event with a lot of other people, and I didn't know if I would have that opportunity to talk to him. But Mandy, let's talk more about that, and I'll see what kind of information I can get up. And thanks for bringing that up and recognizing everybody, in your area where not only where you live, but maybe where your loved one was murdered. It's important to put the heat on these candidates that are running for election, not just sheriff, but mayoral, city council, anything like that, and ask them, because some of them will just not understand. They don't know. Nobody's ever, quizzed them on it. But if you ask them about cold cases and get them engaged and thinking about it, that could be the difference for families like ours, and whether they get a vote or not. So it's important to let them know that is important to us, and that we will be watching, and we will be sharing with our networks of people which sheriffs value and understand that cold cases are important, and dedicated units are important, and which ones don't. So I saw Melanie chimed in with Vicky Cook, saying that that's her first cousin. And yes, absolutely. Vicky Cook has been on our site now for a number of years. We've got the local media to do a story on Vicky Cook a while back. We had Vicky on a billboard. Vicky has been one of those cases that has been, and I want to say that actually the sheriff's office here brought it to our attention and suggested that we, share that one, and asked us to share that one to kind of raise some awareness for it. So, so that's definitely one that's always been, on our radar and always in the rotation of sharing. Stephanie says these cases are so important. It's amazing all the work we do. Well, we're just doing, there's a need here. There's a void here. The services we provide are not what law enforcement provides, but they are absolutely needed and necessary. And if you are a survivor, then you know that better than anybody, that you just can't, you can't ignore these families. You can't ignore these cases. It's to the detriment of our communities, our confidence in law enforcement, and this public safety in our community. So I wanted to see what Tommy Stowe said. Atlanta, Georgia, 1982 cold case, the Purple Onion Strip Club on Stewart Avenue. Who killed Danny Glenn Stowe? I think I recognize that name, Stowe, not the strip club. So I think that is one that we do have on our site. But I think it's a relatively new one, kind of like we talked about with Taylor a little while ago. You guys are just getting into to those services that we can provide. So once we get the case submission and we get all the information that we need, we do that Friday post on Facebook where we share all the new cases that we received that week or that we confirmed that week. That's just step one. And then we will do things as the opportunity presents itself, and as often as the opportunity presents itself. So let's see. Mandy chimed in again that the deputy that works Brian case is wonderful, but he was moved to traffic. But I just did not feel cold cases were at the top of their list. Yeah, there was some people within that agency, Mandy, that were amazing human beings. I mean, just simply amazing human beings and really good detectives. But you're right, as an agency as a whole, I don't know that the emphasis was put on cold cases that we would have liked. But certainly there were a few detectives within that agency that definitely understood it and have been both vocal and kind of silent supporters of our cause. And they have always answered our calls, even when they were moved out of homicide, which is a frustration in and of itself. It can be particularly frustrating, to make that kind of relationship, build that kind of relationship with a detective, have them, you know that they'll return your calls, you know that they'll return your emails, you know that if they don't return it, that there's something going on, they're not just avoiding you and ignoring you, and then having them pulled out and moved, and sometimes it's promotion, excuse me, and sometimes it's just, natural shift. Again, sometimes it's retirement, sometimes it's punishment, sometimes it's they really need somebody of value in another department and they pluck the good one and take them and move them over there. That can obviously be detrimental to the case and that relationship with the family. So that's something that we struggle with a lot, is that detective, moving on and leaving, and again, whether it's retirement or promotion or transfer, and not always telling families that happened. And then a family calls, and finds out that there's either no detective on their case, or it's been reassigned to a new detective that has not even introduced himself. And so that struggle, is obviously real as well. Sorry, I'm reading comments here. Bobby says, Robert Scott Spivey, murder in 71. Why won't you solve this case? So this is a good opportunity for us to talk about why we won't solve that case. So let me see what else Bobby said. Roger Dale Stapleton. I'm not even going to finish that sentence. And I assume he's talking to me, allowed him to get away with murder by marrying the state's key witness. So Bobby, I think you might be a little confused as to who we are. We are not law enforcement. We are not detectives. We are not prosecutors. I don't know the background on your case, but I do know that our job is not to solve it. That's just not what Project Cold Case does. If you want to visit our website, projectcoldcase.org, there's a frequently asked questions section. Maybe you can peruse that and figure out whether we might be able to help you or not. But that is not our role. We do get confused a lot of times with maybe a specific cold case unit or a television show, but that's not what we are, not what we do. So Bobby, again, I would encourage you to go to our website and read about who we are and what we do and how we raise awareness, and just a little tip for when you do reach out to the person or the agency that is in charge of has jurisdiction over your loved one's case. You probably, the old saying, you catch more bees with honey. If you come in accusatory and attacking people, especially people, I think you said it was a 1971 case. So in that situation, like the detectives are not even the same detectives, so they didn't investigate that case. And again, I don't know the specifics of it, but I do know that there's no detective still working at an agency for 50 years later, 50 years later. So but just as a little tip, this is what we do, this is how we try to help families, is provide them with insight into how to approach the agency, how to approach the detective, and that's kind of rule number one, is to approach it not adversarially, because you'll often be met with somebody very defensive that will shut down and likely won't be excited to help you or even want to help you. So so if you want to look at us, look at our website, check out what we do. If your loved one, Roger Stapleton, fits the criteria to be submitted to us, then we can assist with raising awareness and advocating. But that's where our role stops. It's not at investigating. And if you are expecting us to solve your loved one's case, that is an expectation that we're going to fall flat on, because that is just not our job. So it's good to know what to expect going into it. So, hey, Jennifer, thanks for joining us tonight. Amy says she spoke to a cold case detective today and said to reach back out to y'all. I can't get my missing cousin status changed, but I'm hoping to get the full report to forward to y'all and hope you can help me. Yeah, so Amy, we're not going to leave you out to dry on that, and let's talk about it, and let's talk about it in a more intimate setting where it's not all over Facebook Live, but definitely like Clint commented there, reach out to our office tomorrow and let's see how we can assist and what we can do. Because if sometimes we just aren't the right entity to assist, but we certainly aren't just going to cut ties and tell you goodbye. Like, we're going to help you and try to find the right entity or right organization that would help you better than we would in a situation, or we'll figure out a way to help you ourselves. So let's connect on that in the office and chat about what the situation is and what we can do to help get it to a point where we're moving forward in assisting. So. And thank you for reaching out, Amy. Yeah, Frida is wonderful. If anybody that is listening has not taken the time to call our office and to interact with us one-on-one or in a more intimate setting in regards to your loved one's case, please do that. I mean, that's why we're here. Frida and I have been setting up Zoom meetings with families, so that if you don't live in Jacksonville or you aren't, obviously right now we're not exactly inviting a bunch of people into our office just for safety reasons, but we can set up a Zoom meeting. We have a Zoom account, and we can set up a time where Frida and myself can speak with you directly, and we are happy to do that for everyone. And if you just need to chat, if you want to call and ask a question or share a concern, our office is open to that. Frida is a wonderful advocate and will help. And when it's something that we need to tag team, we do that as well. And so you can get through to me. And between Frida and I, we'll handle the advocacy part. And if it's related to, in fact, this is a good segue, if it's related to social media and raising awareness for your loved one, Clint's the mastermind behind all that. And next week, I'll go ahead and tease it, right now, that next week we're going to do our Facebook Live Wednesday, 6 p.m. And all three of the Project Cold Case staff will be on that Facebook Live to answer questions about things regarding social media and, really branding and marketing your loved one's cold case and how important that is. Clint will be, he's got his homework planned. He's got 3 pages of notes already going just from conversations today. And he will be available to assist in what we have found works for us, what we think. I mean, this niche in social media is very unique. So it's an opportunity to, we don't work for Facebook. We don't know the algorithms. We don't know the secrets, but we know And we have tracked what has worked well for us and what seems to work well for justice pages is what we call them. Justice for, so-and-so who killed my loved one, those Facebook pages. Whether it's images, content, the about stuff, Clint is going through and going to create a presentation almost. And I don't know that we'll do the presentation next week. We'll kind of have to see how it flows. He may just answer questions and kind of give some feedback as to what, he suggests. But he does that for our survivors now. So we had a family reach out last night, this morning, and say, some of my family wants to change the name of the page. What is your recommendation? And Frida went in there and told Clint, like, can you do a full audit of this this justice page and let's give the family all of our recommendations on what they could do to get more engagement, to get more people sharing it, to get more people looking at it. And so we thought this would be a great thing to share with everybody. So next week Clint will join me, and then if there's any cases where advocacy is the concern, and questions about that, we'll have Frida there as well, and myself. And hey, Latricia, thanks for joining us. And Larry had a long comment, so give me a second to read this, and then it just moved on me. So I wish we had a mechanism whereby we could share some of these cold cases inside county jails and correctional facilities, maybe like an inmate Crime Stoppers where they can receive gain time or something of value, reduce their sentence, or give them money for canteen, for verifiable concrete information that would solve some of these cold cases. After all, no one knows, hears more, and is more willing to inform on another inmate than an inmate helping themselves. And that is true, and that is how those playing cards were first concocted. I had a deck of them around here somewhere. Maybe I took them back to work. That's how those playing cards were concocted originally, was to hand those out to inmates. We have reached out to Crime Stoppers and asked them in the past, hey, Sissy, thanks for joining us. Hey, Joey. We asked them if they would be willing to do that again, and we're told that the investment was not worth the result, which, is kind of a callous thing to say to a guy like me whose father's murderer is still out there, and some of these others that are listening, because if it solved one case, it would have been worth it. But Larry, I appreciate that, because I agree, and there are other states that have gotten back into those playing cards and are doing them again as one way. I don't know. I've never asked if an inmate can get a reward. You know what I mean? If an inmate calls it in on Crime Stoppers. But you bring up the interesting point about gain time or canteen money or something like that, because, typically when inmates do come forward with information, it's before they've been sent to prison, while they're in county, detention center awaiting their own trial, and they think that they might be able to get some favor with the prosecutor or the judge. They come forward, and so without that kind of reward system in prisons, I think that you're probably right that less people are coming forward, and if we could figure out a way to do that, it might benefit all of us. Jennifer asked if we know if traffic crimes and traffic homicide is in the same department. My husband called yesterday and was transferred to traffic crimes, left voicemail, but that's the first time we've heard traffic crimes. Just curious. I don't know if that's true or not. It's always been traffic homicide over there, but it's not that uncommon that they kind of join forces and shift things around sometimes, and maybe they've consolidated traffic homicide in with other traffic crimes. I'm trying to think who works the cases where it's not a death in a traffic in a hit and run or a traffic crime where somebody is injured severely but not killed. So I always thought that was traffic homicide worked it too, even if they weren't killed. But let me see what I can find out, Jennifer. And it may just be that they've called it something new now and it encompasses more than just homicides. It may be because, like I said, it always seemed a little bit weird that they would say there was a hit and run on Liberty Street, traffic homicide is responding. And then they would say the victim is expected to be okay, but taken to, the hospital. And I always thought, wondered why traffic homicide was investigating a case that wasn't technically a homicide because the victim didn't die. And so it may be that they've just decided that traffic crimes as a whole encompasses now those crimes that are not homicides, and they lumped homicides in because, as you know, Jennifer, as well as I do, they don't. The traffic homicide and the homicide unit are different, and they do not work the same cases. So, but if you find out, Chuck Ford I could probably find that out pretty quick for you. I've heard that name a number of times, and I want to say he was a sergeant in the homicide unit very recently. So I'll try to get that answer for you. It may be tomorrow, just because it's 6:30, and I try not to text people, after hours if I can avoid it. And if you hear back and you haven't heard from us, let me know, because I'm interested to know the answer to that. Hey, Sissy, better late than never, right? We're glad you're here, and the great things about these. There's one of the great things about these Facebook Lives is that you can come in and go as you want, and it will still be on our page. So you can go back later when you get home. When you have time, you can go back and rewatch it. And if you forget about it, like I mentioned earlier, we have a YouTube page where we archive all of these videos so that you can go back and watch them at any time. And so it may not be this one may not be in our YouTube archive for a week or two, but just know that all of our old videos are in there, and this one will be too at some point. So if you ever miss one, or you ever come in at the end of one or in the middle of one, and you realize you missed something you want to hear, you can always go back and watch it, later. So that's where that stands. I want to make sure I didn't miss any other questions over here while I was looking away. Yeah, I see Derek. Let's say he's looking forward to next Wednesday. We got pretty excited about that idea in the office today, Frida and Clint and I, and the ability for all three of us to be on your screen and to be able to share our little niches and within Project Cold Case and what we do, and answer questions that may help you. And then again, this kind of service we have done in the past. Clint and I have met with families and gotten really, really detailed about their social media pages and ways to help. And so Clint has always been kind of compiling a best practices, guide, and kind of keeping it in his back pocket. And so he's gonna work some more on that. And that is, really just another service that we will be able to provide to the families is how best to utilize social media, when to utilize social media, and how to contact, and how we think you can best raise awareness for your loved one's case. Jan, you can private message the Project Cold Case Facebook page. You can also send an email to our office at well, let's see. You can do info@projectcoldcase.org. If you want to get an email if you want to get an email to Frida, the lead advocate, it's Frida, FREDAWP @projectcoldcase.org. And there I see Clint chimed in and mentioned that you can hit the message button up top and send a private message. Either any of those ways, you can call our office at 904-525-8080. Tomorrow during normal hours. We'll have the phones up and running, and we'll be able to take your call, to answer any questions. And then, of course, you can reach out to us through this other media as well. Facebook and or email will respond to you. If you chimed in, we have a case submission page on our website. Jan, that might also be helpful for you if you go to projectcoldcase.org. That's our website, different from our Facebook page, and we have lots of information on there, frequently asked questions, and ways to submit your loved one's case if you have one, what our criteria is for those cases, etc. So hopefully that between those answers, we can get you the assistance that you're looking for and help you out. So back to next week. If you want to be a part of that, join us Wednesday at 6 p.m. for Frida, Clint, and I to all be on here together, assisting and talking. We've been doing virtual support meetings because of COVID-19. So that is another opportunity. This month it will be June 25th. And that'll be from 6 to 7:30, 8 o'clock, depending on how many people join us. And we're going to have a little bit different this month. We're going to have a facilitated group with a licensed clinical social worker and counselor that does a lot of talking with, does some meditation and some hypnosis. And also we'll teach some breathing. We're not going to do any hypnosis during our support meeting, but she teaches breathing techniques if you're dealing with anxiety or depression while grieving your loved one, or particularly during COVID-19. Then that might be good for you. Reach out to Frida, and she'll put you on the list, because it's a private invite to participate in our support meetings, because we don't just want any random weirdo in there making light or making fun, or saying something nasty and offensive. So Mr. Welch chimed in. How are you doing, Mr. Welch? With some of the major city police departments being burnt and evidence rooms being destroyed, how will that hurt cold cases? What can they do? I think, we obviously saw some precincts set on fire in Minneapolis, and we saw some rioting and looting, and we saw some police cars set on fire. I try not to stay glued to the news, but my understanding, what I've seen, is pretty much most of the protests since then have been very peaceful. And we've had a lot of engagement with elected officials during those peaceful protests. So I haven't seen a lot of police stations or evidence rooms being burnt down. Obviously, if that happens, it could affect cold cases. Anytime evidence is destroyed, that is pretty much going to eliminate the opportunity of prosecuting an individual. Even sometimes with a confession, prosecutors want more than that, and want to be able to corroborate that confession. So So that would be, obviously a huge setback for any cold cases, any case files that were destroyed, any evidence that was destroyed. That would be a bad thing for those cold cases. But from what I've seen since then, it appears more of peaceful protests of people just asking to be heard, asking to be listened to, and quite honestly, a lot of them sharing similar needs and wants as families of cold case victims, wanting the attention, wanting to be heard, wanting justice, and so there's a lot of similarities there. It's probably not our time to step in and shift the focus to cold cases, but I think what it does is it allows us to have some common ground, and have a place to start conversations and have conversations, some of which are uncomfortable and some of which are include some pride swallowing and some the ability to listen, which seems to be really, really hard for people right now. A lot of people want to talk, want to share their opinion, want to tell other people how to deal with their trauma. And one thing we've learned, and as survivors, and this as well as anybody, Mr. Welch, that you cannot be told how to process your trauma, and certainly you can't be told that by somebody that hasn't experienced it. So I hope that I haven't been missing out on news reports of evidence rooms being burnt and destroyed. I did see that in Minneapolis originally, but with that precinct. But I'm hoping that I think the protests will get people listening, and if there needs to be, then hopefully that'll happen through those means, because I don't think even people that are mad and that are angry, I don't think that their intention is to stop a cold case from being solved. So it's a good opportunity to educate people and to listen to people. And I think if we're listening, then the anger will subside. I know that in our experience with upset survivors, if they just know that they're being heard and they're being listened to and that someone else cares, then that in and of itself is a lot more than they have ever received from anybody else. And so that is something that you can expect. We were talking about expectations earlier, and that is something that you certainly can expect from Project Cold Case. Is we will listen to you, we will hear you, and we do care about your loved ones. So hopefully that can transcend some of the anger and some of the hate and that's going on in the world right now, and we can start to heal and work together, and make a better community for everybody. So with that being said, I'm gonna keep it kind of short tonight. We've gone almost 50 minutes, so that's a lot of attention from some of you, and I appreciate it. Sometimes we go a little bit longer, but we'd really like to keep these things somewhere between half an hour and an hour, depending on the topic. So I really appreciate everybody coming in and watching today. Again, if you missed anything, you can go back and rewatch it. Or check out our YouTube page for old archive Facebook Lives. Don't forget to tune in next week when we'll have Clint, Frida, and myself all live to answer your questions and to talk about social media in your loved ones' cases and advocating for self-advocating for your loved one, and things that you can do that, believe it or not, are more powerful coming from you, a family member, than coming from us, an organization. And we want to give you guys those tools so that you can reach out and continue to, or start to engage when those conversations with your detectives. If you are unable to do that for literally any reason, you're scared to, you're intimidated to, you're too mad to, you're too angry to, then we will help and we will facilitate those things. But let's talk about it. There's always a way. There's always a way to talk about to get through to people, and there's always another option. So we will do that. Yeah, Jennifer, we've missed you too. Again, check us out next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m. and June 25th, our virtual support meeting. If you want to join us, call the office, send Frida an email, and we'll get you on that list. Everybody, please stay safe, stay healthy, know that we're thinking of you, and we will see you very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.